Hey, howdy. I am back. I am sleep deprived. Let's do some Dookie. What better way to beat sleep deprivation than to play a game where you fall asleep? Oh, come on. Don't tell me the game's gonna lag like hell. It was working so well a second ago. Please. Let me just, like... Alright, so I'm gonna do dailies, and then I will discuss the patch notes, because there's actually a decent amount of stuff in the patch notes this time. Including, what? 81 new wallpapers? Yeah? Yeah. That's a lot. I was too slow to unlock all the new wallpapers, so there's now 81 more that I need to unlock. Hell yeah. Let me just, like, go through... Yeah, that's worth a reload. Let's play Shift F5 roulette and see if it is less laggy on the reload. Better so far? Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. That is way, way better. Alright, so... I'm gonna do dailies, and then I'm gonna see what wallpapers I have to unlock, because I guess more food's been added to my plate. So, hell yeah. So, the dailies. We got a daily to Deserted Pier, and we got a daily to Tulip Lamp World, which is the super deep Wataru? Yeah, super deep Wataru location. Goes all the way down to Rose Church. Shit. I guess I'm going to Rose Church then, because that area is beautiful. That doesn't seem too bad. So, first to address the sleep deprivation joke. That wasn't really a joke. I may have messed up. In an effort to reset my sleep schedule, because for the past few days I've been having trouble going to bed. Or going to bed at a decent hour, and I don't mean like, oh, I'm too busy playing video games. I mean like, I wake up at like 1 or 2 a.m. in a pool of sweat because it is way too hot in this room. I've addressed this before. And I have a 10 a.m. and I've been missing it. And last night, I was up until 2 a.m. I was kept up until 2 a.m. again, and I sat there like, okay, if I don't do something, I'm going to miss class again. And there is an exam next Tuesday, and I cannot afford to miss too many classes. Because, you know, in a class like this that moves this fast, I would prefer not to just miss some of the content. So my immediate next thought was, okay, how the hell do I fix this? Well, my thought was, okay, whenever you like travel to a different country or you just go to a different time zone in general, I know this doesn't really apply. This doesn't really apply as much to people outside the U.S. because for some reason the U.S. is in like 4 different time zones. So if you travel across the U.S., you are going 3 hours back or forth. Also, I accidentally went down the stairs, so I gotta reset. But when you travel to a different country or to a different time zone, what you often do is stay up way later than usual and basically just like loop an entire cycle of sleep. Then you go to bed at what you would consider to be a reasonable hour, and then when you wake up, you're basically set. This is the wrong way. Come on, there you are. So I resolved to stay up all night. And it wasn't the most pleasant, but I mean, you know, I just like I played some Dynamite, I put on some Snapcube, I tried to do some Isaac modding, but I was just not in a state of mind to do much of anything besides just, you know, sit there and watch the time go by. And I make it to class, I was practically falling asleep over myself. I fall asleep at like 2 p.m. thinking like, okay, I'll take a nap. Wake up at 8 a.m. Wake up at 8 p.m. And now I'm here. It's like an hour and a half later, and like, well, crap. I kind of have to stay up a little bit later than this, because if I go to bed now, it's like doing the mental math in my head. I normally get like 9 hours of sleep or so. I try my best at least. I know that's what my body is going to default to. So if I go to bed right now, I'm going to wake up at midnight and I'm not going to be able to fall back asleep. So I got to be a little careful when I actually turn in for the night. But apart from that, it's been a fun few days. I forgot how cool this area was. I recently rediscovered the book Frankenstein, and I haven't read it since high school, but there are certain aspects of it that are very fun to go back and think about. Because to those of you who have never read the book Frankenstein, it is a classic, genuinely. And I do recommend that you read it, but if you don't want to read it, I'll give pardon me. But if you don't want to read it, I'll give you the shorthand. So Frankenstein was a book that was written by Mary Shelley, all the way back in like the dark romantic period of literature. Back when everything was super dark and brooding, and there are no happy endings here. There's only death and depression and super gloomy environments and super gloomy people. Same kind of environment that Edgar Allan Poe wrote a lot of his stories in. And stuff, short stories like The Open Boat, which is just, to my memory, The Open Boat is just the story of a few people who have been shipwrecked and are kind of just sitting there waiting for it all to end, slowly sitting there on the boat just waiting for something to happen, whether it be people coming to rescue them or just them all dying. Very cheerful. And Frankenstein is no exception. So Frankenstein is kind of a odd book to talk about because it's one of those stories. Dracula kind of has this problem too. A lot of the books that have been made into classic movies by, I think Warner Brothers is the company that owns the rights. There's a whole like subsect of books and old media that were made into movies around the same time and have sort of fallen into the general canon of like kitschy monster movies, and Frankenstein is chief among them. So the first thing that you need to know, and you probably know this already, is that Frankenstein does not refer to the monster. And it never has referred to the monster. The monster is just called the monster in the book. He's never given a proper name. Frankenstein refers to the young scientist Victor Frankenstein. Now, the thing about Frankenstein is that he has, like, a fairly boring life. He's kind of just generic upbringing of a scholarly kid. He goes to college. He studies some things, and his professors are like, "Dude, you probably shouldn't be studying this. This stuff ain't kosher." And he does it anyway. And it eventually reaches a point. Oh. Am I going the wrong way? Deserted pier. I should be going to Bottom Garden. Hang on. Let me see. Let me, like, run through this a little bit. If I go to Mansion... Yeah, it should be good if I go to Wind Tunnel. I don't quite like Wind Tunnel, unfortunately, but there's not much I can really do about it. Oh. Right. I forgot. Freaking... I'm here. I guess while I'm here I go to Planetarium. But, so, Victor Frankenstein has a really boring life. Like, there's not really much to it. He has... This is the part that's aged kind of strangely, not poorly per se, but just kind of weirdly. He has a adopted sister named Elizabeth. And the two of them had an arranged marriage by their parents, which is, like, kind of weird. And Victor has basically no feelings for her, even though he does, like, love her as a sister. Obviously, he doesn't love her as a lover. Regardless of the fact that that is, like, it's a weird and gross situation already. And then there's the fact that Victor just does not have feelings for her. So he has Elizabeth, and he also has a good friend named... Oh, what the hell is his name? I believe his name is Percy? Percival, somewhere around there? Pretty sure it's Percy. And there is a lot of, how to best put this? There's a lot of homoerotic subtext there, at least in my opinion. Based on everything I've read about it and my memory from reading it back in high school. I just get the feeling that between Victor having no strong emotions about Elizabeth and then, as we'll see later, having pretty clear strong emotions for Percy, it's kind of, it's a little sus. Just a little bit. But I haven't talked about the most important part of the story yet, which is the monster. So, like I said, Victor has been dabbling in some dark arts. And remember, this was made around the time where, like, the word of God was, like, the resounding word when it came to science. You didn't do things that were unholy, even if they would, in theory, lead to scientific advancements. And one of those things was cutting open a body. Like, dead or alive, there was a point in time where autopsy was just seen as barbaric. And, I mean, kind of a dumb take, frankly, but, you know, the church is the church. The Catholic Church kind of just does weird stuff, and then expects the people to follow suit. So, not the Catholic Church, but still. Christianity in general. But these dark arts involved the use of autopsy and similar practices to potentially reanimate the dead. To create a golem made of, well, the remains of people and bring it to life. And I should probably mention that the story of Frankenstein is given a subtitle that's often forgotten. The full story is called Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus. Now, the story of Prometheus doesn't seem directly related at first, but in the historical context, it makes a lot more sense. Because when it refers to the story of Prometheus, it refers to what happens when you give man the power of creation. Because the story goes, the story of Prometheus is that man initially did not have fire, and Prometheus was kind of a rebellious gentleman. On a couple of occasions, he snuck away certain things to help the human race. Like, he snuck away some meat that was originally destined for Zeus and gave Zeus some basically like pork drippings instead. By giving him, if I remember the story, it was he had 2 sacks. One had tallow on the top and meat on the bottom, and one had meat on the top and tallow on the bottom. And he gave the meat-topped one to Zeus and gave the tallow-topped one to the humans, so that the humans could actually enjoy their meal. Most important thing that Prometheus did, though, was steal fire from Mount Olympus and give it to humanity. And by fire, they don't literally mean fire, is the thing. They mean fire and light in a very abstract sense. Just like things that you would associate with fire. So like heat, light, creation, power. The ability to create life. Something that was originally only limited to the gods on Mount Olympus. So now we go back to the story of Frankenstein. As you can probably guess, Christians really do not like the idea of resurrecting the dead. And keep in mind, this is long before zombies. Zombies were, to my memory, zombies were like a voodoo thing, right? Like zombies did not come into the like common vernacular for quite a while. Not until America, at least. But Victor Frankenstein creates this artificial man and brings him to life. And the things that you want to know about the man, or about the monster, is that he is very tall, he is hideous, and he is fully sentient. There is sort of like a cartoon aspect to it that's sort of been inherited over time with stuff like, you know, Bugs Bunny interpretations of the story and the Warner Brothers adaptations. There were a lot of Warner Brothers adaptations. But the monster is actually very intelligent. And that's something that's often overlooked, is that dude was smart. Like, dude was very smart. And he knew full well what he was. So what ended up happening is Victor makes this monster and then immediately runs away like the coward he is. The monster awakens, he screams in fear, and then he kind of just leaves the monster to his own devices. And the monster leaves and essentially goes on a soul-searching journey from there. Going to a nearby village and basically trying to make friends and just trying to meet people out in the real world. It working at first, and then coming to the realization that everyone kind of just sees him as a monster. And surprise, surprise. He then meets up with Victor on a mountaintop and shames Victor quite a lot, and I don't think he's wrong for shaming him. Basically saying, like, the hell are you doing? You brought me into this world, and then you immediately left me to suffer on my own. The hell is wrong with you? Like, everyone that I try to talk to thinks that I'm a monster, and I am a monster. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm suffering. So what I want you to do is I want you to make me a bride. And by this point, Victor has just had it. He does not want to make any more artificial men or artificial women, and he just objects outright. So the monster is pissed off, and he goes out. Victor storms off, the monster storms off, and then Victor goes back home and finds that Percy's dead. Yeah, the guy that I said before, he is like ambiguously in love with him. So his response, after being told, like, no, you can't make me, I'm not gonna make you a wife. Well, let's see how you like it when the person you love gets ripped to shreds. Victor eventually agrees and, under duress of the monster, tries to make a bride. Succeeds, and then promptly destroys it. Okay, I just keep going down. Out of spite or whatever the hell else. And that makes the monster very angry. This time, instead of killing Percy, he goes out of his way and he kills Elizabeth. And at this point, it's just devolved. There's no longer any sort of friendship or even respect between the two. It is full-on blood feud. The monster escapes to the Arctic. Victor chases him, gets thrown overboard into the water, gets picked up by an associate of his that just happened to be in the Arctic doing research. And the entire story, it's sort of like revealed in post that the entire story is Victor recounting his story to the Arctic researcher guy. And I mean, here's the thing. I had to read this book for a class. 12th grade British literature, if I remember correctly. And I kind of hated it at first, because it's a really dense book, and it's written to be very dense, sort of. It's one part is the style of the time, and the other part is just, I mean, it's the style of the time. It's dark romantic. The whole shtick with dark romantic is that everything is, like, very dour, but also very descriptive. But the thing that I've learned the most about literature is that if you're reading it for fun, it's a lot easier to look past stuff like that and to just enjoy it at face value. Because there's genuinely a lot to love about that book. is extremely interesting and it's a very good, I don't want to say it's a good period piece, but it shows a lot of the culture of the time. And it was also, a lot of people agree that it was the very first science fiction work of all time. Or damn close to it. And on top of that, there's the other angle that I didn't really address. Mary Shelley's a woman. And, like, part of that... Oh, wait. The guy's name wasn't Percy. Percy was the name of Mary Shelley's freaking husband. Because Percy Shelley. Clerval was the name of his associate that Victor Frankenstein was definitely gay for. Clerval was his name, right. Hey guys. How are y'all doing? What was that little spin? But, the story goes is that Percy Shelley and Mary Shelley were at a sort of a writer's party. I don't know how best to describe it. It was some, like, weird party that was being hosted by Lord Byron. And I got kind of like a patchy high school version of it, but it was a sex party. From everything that I've read about it, it was a sex party. And my personal theory, by the way, Rose Church, hell yeah. My personal theory is this is part of the reason why Victor has no strong feelings romantically at all, because I would be willing to bet that Lord Byron was making advances, and Mary Shelley was doing everything in her power to be as disinterested as possible. Not in a way of like, oh, I can't resist you, but in the way of like, ew. I'm absolutely not. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I'm not going to engage in this weird writer sex party. We are almost out of time already, huh? Shit. I was hoping we'd have longer. I've been so spoiled. I've been so spoiled from the freaking streams. Next stream's gonna be fun, actually. Wait, let me check. I have the schedule back here somewhere. There you are. Oh, it's Pico Games. Yes, Pico Games will be fun. They'll genuinely be super fun. But yeah, I guess that's all I got. Next time I'll check out the new worlds and the new wallpapers. That's all I got. Thanks so much for watching.